Welcome to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. Paul is one of America's top management consultants helping leaders succeed. He is the author of 9 books, including Sweet Persuasion and Brilliant Thoughts and Provocative Questions. His insights appear regularly in major publications, and he is one of the most sought-after executive coaches. Paul founded the American Seminar Leaders Association and the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. He is a popular speaker at national conferences and has been on stages across all 50 states and internationally. Paul's work addresses the question, how can we transform conflict in business into collaboration? With decades of experience in management, leadership, and psychedelics, he brings a unique perspective on personal and societal growth. In this series, we'll be discussing his latest book, Getting High on Leadership, The Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. We'll be exploring the concepts, techniques, and mindset required to revolutionize leadership. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the series. I'm your host, Sanchez, and we are joined by Paul Karasik, author of the book Getting High on Leadership, and we are on quite an adventure here in this series, trying to expand on each chapter and look at how it provides guidance or direction on your journey towards being a more conscious leader. While doing so, we're tangenting all over the place to hopefully advocate for conscious leadership overall and show why it's valuable in many different arenas. Today's section is called Who's Packing Your Lunch, and it can be found on page 109. And Paul, take it away, man. Where do we begin with this little story here?
Yeah, this story is kind of like reinforces a lot of material that we've been talking about, and you know, there's a couple of angles to it. First of all, it's funny, and I think it's funny anyway. It makes me laugh. You know, there's the punchline always cracks me up. But more importantly, it's just kind of reiterating this theme that's been so prevalent throughout the series of like, we have control. We have dominion over only one thing, and that's our consciousness. The rest of the world is really up for grabs. How it unfolds for us, and there's nobody to blame but ourselves. And that's the bottom line here, that there's nobody to blame but ourselves. You know, when I hear as a management consultant, my boss this, my boss that, my boss this, my boss that, complaining, and a lot of times it's valid. You know, like these kind of unconscious leaders we've been talking about at different points. But at some point, it's not right. It's about you and you. Can you walk into an environment, you know, that's distasteful, you know, that's toxic, and maintain your own presence? That's the question here. There's only one hopeless condition: victimhood. And it's true. And because there's no way out of that, because that's complete helplessness, right?
Right.
Ultimately, that's like, I have no, you know, I'm a victim.
If you've taken that position, you've already, in taking that, you've said and decided that you're powerless to change the situation.
Yeah, it's the worst position. When we're part of this universal consciousness, that means we're part of all the power that there ever was, is, or will be. That universal consciousness is part of the eternal, the infinite, the unending, the universality of all existence. And to demean yourself into that position of victim. And, you know, I lived my life that way in my youth. You know, I want to be a rock star, and like, oh, the music business is all screwed up, and I wanted to do this, and oh, the business thing is all, you know, you got to have this or that, and who you know, and all this other stuff. And until I finally said, wait a minute. I'm not a victim of anybody or anything. I can create whatever I want. Like, the universe opens up. And this chapter is about victimhood. That's what it's about at the core. And it's hopeless. taking ownership. When I go to victimhood, man, it's a dark day.
It goes deep fast, huh?
It goes bad immediately.
Yeah.
Like, whatever
You
it
just
is, I
start
can't
looking at
pay,
all of your relationships then, or all of your work in a negative way.
It poisons everything. Yeah, it poisons
Right.
everything because you bring that, and it's so unreal. It's not the way it is, because we see powerful people that have no more intelligence, no more emotional intelligence, no more come from the same background, and they make their way up whatever that thing is with nothing. I mean, when you look at Bob Dylan came to New York City. I just saw the movie a short time ago. He didn't know anybody. He didn't know a soul. He's from Minnesota. I mean, I'm from New York. We don't really get into people from Minnesota that much. It's like, the East Coast too. So, but he made his way. He made his way. He got out there. He wasn't saying I'm going to be a victim of the music business or anything else. And we all start out that way. But he didn't start from victimhood. He started from, I've got some songs to sing, and I think people want to hear them. And if you're interested in working together with me, let's do it together. And publishers and record companies, Columbia Records, and all these people came to him and said, yeah, we want to be your partners. But, I used to watch, being in the music business for a number of years, I used to watch people come into town, they're going to make it in New York, and they storm it. And I see them at the studios and kind of in the circle in New York in that era. And, slowly but surely, New York,
a downward slide.
Yeah. And it would beat them up,
Yeah.
They'd take their demo tapes around to the different publishing companies. Nobody responded. They didn't want to, they came in strong, but then they gave up their power and said, oh, people aren't responding. Well, maybe it's a message. Maybe you got to write better songs. Maybe you need to produce them better.
Where taking that role of a victim almost ends the journey.
It ends the journey, and it could have been
I guess they won.
Yeah, I think, Rob, I think it's about when these things happen, there's such incredible opportunities to learn about consciousness. And that's the real lesson here in this particular chapter, is no matter what's happening externally, we have to reflect. What is our vision, and really be conscious. Before we can bring consciousness into leadership, we have to bring consciousness into our own being every day. Being aware of what we're doing, being aware of what we're saying. And the things I'm asking people to do in this series is not easy, Rob. You got to make a commitment to it. Like you made a commitment to learn something else. You made a commitment to running or losing weight, or, all those kind of superficial things, in a sense. You have to make a commitment to awareness of your own consciousness in everyday actions and everyday reactions. You don't have to, you always want technique, but there is no technique when you're just aware. When you can see,
right.
When I can look at me this whole concept.
Realize who's packing your lunch, and realize who's at the center of consciousness, at least with you in mind, and that is you. It very much is you.
It's you, so it's like, if you're not happy, hey, don't blame me. When you wake up in the morning and to say, as a leader, my goal, my objective is real simple: to be in consciousness, to be aware today, to be aware of how I'm responding to people, to be aware of how I'm treating people, and again, who's packing my lunch, how I'm treating myself. And I had a coach for quite a few years, about 10 years, and one of his lines was always, you treat yourself like an object. And it took a real long time for me to get what he was saying and really see that, and he said, you're so hard on yourself. Like nobody would ever be as hard on yourself as you are, Paul. And it really, it began a whole triggering of thinking of like, oh my God, that's why I'm treating.
What has that caused, or why has that
Yeah,
has
what
been
am
a
I
result
packing?
of that.
What am
Yeah.
I eating? Mentally, spiritually, emotionally. What's my lunch? And it's usually these negative, many times victimhood type thoughts. If they would do that, then this would be better. That, and that's, man. When you get out of that loop as a leader, it becomes so easy. It
Breath of
really
fresh
does.
air.
Yeah, it's fresh air.
Yeah. No, what wonderfully put there, Paul. I think we'll cut this one off here, but I think it's definitely a section that we'll be revisiting and bringing up in some future sections as well, as it cuts to the truth of this book and really explains many of the previous sections in a real concise and consolidated chapter. But yeah, thank you, Paul, and thank you for our listeners and viewers. As always, guys, you can start from the beginning of the show and follow us along, or you can pick and choose any episodes that interest you from the title, or just join us on the next one. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Getting High on Leadership series. If you have any questions, you can comment below or send them in via email to paul@paulkarasik.com. Follow him on Instagram at PK_The Conversation. Find out more at wholesalerinstitute.com and psychedelic-awakening.com. The Getting High on Leadership series is produced by Rob Sanchez and Apartment 113, which can be found at apartment113.com and followed on Instagram at APT_113.